Farmview with Kieran O'Connor on WLR.
Brought to you by GlanbiaConnect.com.
Well, as usual, it's Kieran O'Connor here with your weekly farming programme. Once again, I have a very busy show for you this week. On this week's programme, I'll discuss the ongoing COVID-19 problems in our meat plants, which has resulted in the lockdown of 3 Midland counties. I'll also talk to Glanbia Group Managing Director Siobhan Talbot about their first half results, which were announced earlier in the week, and also about coping with COVID. Plus, I'll hear how Agri Tourism has been affected by COVID. I'll talk to Gorman, award-winning Glasha Farmhouse in Ballymacarbery. And as usual, we'll have our farming calendar.
Farmview with Kieran O'Connor on WLR.
With GlanbiaConnect.com, Ireland's biggest online farming shop and more.
Well, with several outbreaks at meat plants in the Midlands have prompted the government to introduce a regular testing programme for factory workers. Indeed, a very serious situation which has been brewing over the weeks, indeed over the months as well. And covering it for the Irish Farmers Journal, and a woman very much with her handle on what's happening as regards the meat plants, is Hannah Quinn Mulligan, news correspondent with the Irish Farmers Journal. Hannah Quinn Mulligan, welcome to our programme.
Thank you very much for having me.
Hannah, as I said, this has been a very serious scenario, but it hasn't been brewing literally in the last week. This has been on for weeks and months, and a lot of people on the outside feel that action should have been taken sooner than what we're seeing happening this week.
You're right, it's been going on a long time, and we've seen internal documents that were submitted to NEFID that shows that the first cluster in a meat factory was on the 11th of March, it was reported. So we're going back quite a long time there, and we do know even before this, say, second wave in meat factories, that there were a number of almost explosive outbreaks. There were up to 20 facilities up to the beginning of June, and some of those facilities had over 100 cases, and we can see that from the NEFID document. So it is concerning, and I guess a lot of questions are going to be asked as well, as in how did Ireland maybe not look at other countries, say England and Germany, where the first local lockdowns were sparked by outbreaks in meat factories.
I saw a timeline you had on the journal, and when I looked at it, the 11th of March NEFID documents show HSE had been notified on the first meat factory cluster. So that's back the 11th of March. We're now in mid-August.
Yeah, that's right. And I think maybe it's important to say that while there have been 26 clusters in meat factories, a cluster is only 2 or more people. So some have been quite small cases, some have been quite large. And those 26 clusters, but there's 56 meat plants, large-scale meat plants in Ireland. And while some have obviously been challenged by COVID-19, we do know that some have had no cases at all, and HSE protocol has been maintained. So it does seem to be almost on a factory-by-factory basis, and how individual management in each factory has coped with it.
Obviously, as regards the whole structure of a meat plant and the beef line, the killing line, the production line, it's really a huge opportunity for COVID to thrive in, and then with a lot of foreign nationals and people in their living facilities as well. So there's an ongoing complication there that isn't easy to solve.
Yeah, complication is probably the right word. I mean, a lot of time that's been said is that, meat factories weren't made for 2 metre social distancing. Well, no workplace was really made for 2 metre social distancing, and we know that now as we're all kind of heading back to work ourselves. But it is a bit harder on a processing line, and especially in the deboning hall. That's where a lot of the issues seem to be occurring. I've heard from various people who work in them. Just because people are quite close together, it can be quite noisy, and the temperature as well seems to be really conducive to the spread of the virus. And there's a new investigation out that shows that the virus is more likely to spread in that kind of low temperature conditions you find in meat factories. So I guess it's kind of been the perfect storm in some cases. But that's, quite sad, and that's what's led to the local lockdown in these 3 counties definitely being part of it. And now the government has stepped up and say they're going to introduce testing measures.
Now, as regards, fortunately, down here in Waterford with Dawn and ABP and in Ferrybank, in Granny and indeed Carl's Cross as well, we've been very fortunate. As regards the regular testing programme now for factory workers, as regards continuing production, as regards shutdown within the whole period, did many plants actually shut down for many days, or were they able to keep going in some fashion?
So we know that blanket testing happened in a number of plants. So say Keepack Watergrass Hill, Keepack Athleague, there were Rostera, the HSE stepped in and did blanket testing. But production seems to have kind of kept going with the workers who were feeling all right, although at a much reduced capacity. And we know that some pig farmers, say, had their kind of loads cancelled or put back because the workforce on the processing lines was limited. I guess what we're wondering now with this test testing, which we expect actually to happen quite soon, is whether processing at the plant is going to be suspended while testing takes place. Now, all indicators point that won't happen, that the HSE testing will start on a weekly basis in meat factories. Processing will continue unless there are issues. But I guess from IBEC's point of view and Meat Industry Ireland's point of view is that they want the HSE to take into account that if it's only a small number of people who test positive, that the plant won't be closed.
Now, the 4 plants in question, of course, you have Kildare Chilling, Carol's Cuisine, Irish Dog Foods and O'Brien's Fine Foods across 3 counties, Kildare, Laois and Offaly. For the people there, indeed for the farming community there, it's a very worrying time for everyone involved there.
It is. I mean, everyone's primary concern here is the health and safety of not just, factory workers, but also the surrounding community as well. That's priority number 1. But also, when you look from a farmer's point of view, we only have to think of the tractor protests last year to know how concerned farmers are about competition in terms of getting beef and lamb prices. And the thing about Kildare Chilling, it's the only slaughter plant out of the 4 plants that's been closed down. So the only one that takes live animals and processes them. And a lot of farmers have already said that that's a terrible blow for them. And there's some concern as well that other meat factories are using the closure of Kildare Chilling to try and bring down prices, because Kildare Chilling is actually seen as one of the more individual, independent, and they process up to around 15,000 lambs a week and quite a lot of cattle as well every single week. And I mean, it's so valued. Just to give you this one example, where I'm from in Limerick, farmers actually send quite a big load of cattle collectively up from Limerick to Kildare Chilling every week because they feel they get a better price in Kildare Chilling. So, you have to take that into account as well, that it has been a big blow for some farmers out there.
Finally, Hannah, you've been dealing with this topic over the last few weeks and months. Indeed, you've been talking to all the main players, particularly the farming organisations, the factories themselves, the management, the workers, HSE, SIPTU. Where do you see it going from here, or do you feel the next week or 10 days is critical as regards the outcome here?
It is definitely critical because there's been such an enhanced kind of spotlight on the whole meat factory situation. And I guess there's a couple of different angles here that, I suppose workers' rights have been a big one that have been highlighted. There's been a lot of concern around that, but also a lot of concern around, is this another element of the cheap food policy? That we've seen farmers being impacted by the cheap food policy for years and years, and is this another angle to it that we're seeing now? So, in the immediate future, I think testing is definitely going to be brought in, and we'll have to see how strongly the HSE react to positive cases in meat factories. But going forward as well in the future, I think definitely there's going to be a lot more meetings between SIPTU and Meat Industry Ireland, like we saw this week happening.
Spotlight is definitely on it, and as you said, the next week, 10 days is critical. Hannah Quinn Mulligan, news correspondent, Irish Farmers Journal, who's been covering this whole topic of the meat factory COVID-19 scenario. Thanks for taking our call, and listen, keep up the good work, and let's hope we will have good news in the next week, 10 days.
Thanks very much, Kieran.
Farmview with Kieran O'Connor on WLR.
With GlanbiaConnect.com. Thousands of products in the palm of your hand.
And welcome back to part 2 of Farmview. Now, before we hear all about how Agri Tourism has been affected by COVID, let's have a look at some items from our farming calendar. Turning to our farmer markets and country markets, very busy at the moment, and fantastic array of artisan foods available at country markets right across the city and county. This Saturday and every Saturday morning, Waterford Farmers Market, John Roberts Square, and also on Saturday mornings, of course, we've the Stradbally Farmers Market now trading outdoors in Stradbally every Saturday morning. On Sundays, it's Lismore Farmers Market at Castle Avenue, Lismore, running from 10 until 4. While also on Sundays, we'll have Ardmore Farmers Market running from 11 until 3, just off the beach car park in Ardmore. Thursday mornings, it's Dungarvan Farmers Market, Grattan Square, Dungarvan, every Thursday morning from 9 until 2. While on Friday mornings, we've the Dungarvan Country Markets at the Causeway Tennis Club in Abbeyside, running from 9 till 1:30. And also on Friday mornings in the city, we've Waterford Country Markets in St Olaf's Hall, running from 9 until 1. Very busy time indeed at the marts at the moment. Of course, this Saturday we've cattle and calf sale at Waterford Ross Mart in New Ross, commencing from 10 o'clock. While on Monday mornings and every Monday morning we've cattle and calf sales in Dungarvan, running from 11. And don't forget, all mart sales are now online at livestocklive.com, with bids taken from both ringside and online, which has proven to be very popular with both buyers and sellers. Now, noting from Town Hickey for Waterford Forest Owners Group, who are doing such great work across the county, a special outdoor meeting and information meeting will be held on Monday night next. It's for forest roadways, turntables, costs and grants involved, felling licence application, all you need to know about forestation. Monday, 7:30, you meet in the Shanachie Pub car park, and then you drive to the forest site with COVID safety precautions very much in place. So Monday night, the 17th, 7:30 in the Shanachie Pub car park. for a forest site information meeting, an open meeting for all involved in the forest area. Now to our show jumping, very busy time at the moment in the show jumping. Beatfield Sports Horse Jump Cross, well, their centre in Kappa are continuing every Thursday and every Saturday with activities for horses and ponies. But don't forget, a date for your diary, the finals of these leagues is taking place on Thursday the 27th. So fantastic setup out there in Beachfield Kappa with cross-country course as well as a standard jumping arena as well. While also hive activity, of course, is Jerome's Shanakill House Equestrian Centre in Kilmac. They're ongoing every Friday evening from 5 with their unregistered pony series. And don't forget, the finals will take place in Shanakill on Friday, August the 28th. We'll have more details on next week's programme.
Farmview with Kieran O'Connor on WLR.
With GlanbiaConnect.com, Ireland's biggest online farming shop and more.
Well, the tourism sector, of course, has been badly hit because of COVID-19. So to find out how the Agri Tourism sector has been affected, we're joined from the Ballymacarbery area by Oliver Gorman of Glasha Farmhouse, and of course Glasha House, well known over the years and a great supporter of our annual Peel. Olive, welcome to our programme.
Thank you very much, Kieran. Good to hear from you.
Olive, as I said in the intro, the tourism industry badly hit. How has Glasha Farmhouse been affected?
Before the 18th of March or the 16th, I can't remember the exact date, I don't think I would be able to talk to you at this time of the year according to my booking. But then with the lockdown and everything happening, it was a case of downhill after that. Cancellations. It was unreal. I looked at it with my mouth open, you see, at the emails that were coming through at that stage. But there's nothing we could do about it. We were going into unknown territory and we just had to hold tight.
Did you find that very upsetting? Like every phone call you were getting was a cancellation, every email you were getting. Did you find that difficult to handle?
Not really, because we're in the unknown. To be quite honest with you, I had Australian guests just before St. Patrick's Day, and when this was coming down the tracks and they were talking about lockdown, or they're giving out about Cheltenham and everything, they were complaining about that it was closed up. I thought the Australian guests could never be out of the house fast enough. I was nervous. I was so scared of them. Would they I pick up anything from them? Would they leave anything in the house? And I was nervous. And the government did such a wonderful job, and I really mean this, in putting us all in our little boxes, I suppose, all right, and keeping us in a spot, and minding us, I would say, for the better word, that I took it so seriously. I got scared of going out myself and meeting people, and I just said we just followed the rules. I suppose.
You cocooned and kind of stayed at home. So then, when did you feel a bit of a green shoot? At what stage then did Glasha Farmhouse decide, yes, we're going to reopen?
Well, I was reluctant to do it, being honest about it. I was nervous of meeting people again, and then some people rang me, and they had been here before, and I said, right, sure, maybe if they're good, the repeats, Irish repeats, and if they're interested in coming down, sure, maybe I'd tread carefully. And I had 6 people for the first weekend we opened, and it was such a pleasure. We worked it together, if you know what I mean, and we had all these preparations to do beforehand, the social distancing and putting up all the sanitisers, watching everything. We had to abide by the 40 Ireland guidelines, and there were lots of those. We did that and said, if I'm going to open, I have to do it right, and we followed that, and then I felt secure, and after the first group of people left, I was happier myself, and I was able to continue on and deal with more. But having said that, I must say that I've enjoyed the month of July, meeting the people that I've had for years.
Getting some way back to normal.
Yes, and they had gone foreign for a lot of years. And, the lot of years have elapsed since I had seen them. And it's just lovely to meet them again, and go back through stories and different things over the times when Paddy was alive with me as well. They would remember him. But it's a different story now. But look, we're open.
Right, that's the main. As regards the awards, of course, this year you've won several awards for Best Breakfast and various awards over the years, but this year you had won the 2020 award, which was a great boost at the start of the year, so that was a great achievement for you and everyone involved in Glasha House, and then to find the lockdown, but thankfully you're back up and running. But the awards keep on coming for you.
To do, and you don't buy those, you work hard to achieve those. But I thought when I won the Bed and Breakfast of the Year for 2020, it was going to be a great year to remember. That was a good number. Golly, 2020, it was good, it's one year we would prefer to forget.
Olive, as regards the actual...
it will all be all right.
Exactly.
Right?
As regards the experience in Glasha House, a beautiful area in Nar Valley, and I know you worked closely with Mary Wall in Honora's cottage promoting the whole Nar Valley, what you have to offer. What's the big attraction for your visitors? Is the peace and quiet? Is it the farming and being on farm or whatever?
Well, the peace and quiet. Well, we have a farm, all right, and that's an added extra. But the thing is, you're out in the countryside, you're getting fresh air. You're not in close proximity with a lot of other people. That's a huge advantage. You have your mountains to walk. You have the Knockmeal Downs, you have the Cumra Mountains. You have lots of circular walks from Glasha as well. And in fact, most evenings now after dinner, in this lovely weather we have at the moment, I take my people, my guests, on a tour, my 3.5k circular walk from the house, and it's just lovely to chat with them, and they see the cows in the fields, the green fields, they admire the grass, they can see the mountains, they come along then to the cornfields there in the neighbouring farm, and they see the different things, and just away, and it's just lovely.
They get close to nature.
Close to nature, and it's an experience for them. Right. Some of those people have come from Dublin and they would know nothing about farming.
And would most of your visitors, would Dublin be the main area? I know this year is different as regards farm visitors, but as regards staycation, where would most of your visitors come from?
Well, some from Dublin. I've had it from Wicklow, a lot of repeats from Wexford, a lot of repeats from Cork, that area, in the counties,
right.
That sort of way. Galway, I've had people from Galway side as well, all over Ireland really, in the surrounding area that way. But Galway would be the furthest up.
As regards the ethos of Glasha House, what's the secret of Glasha House? Because year on year, as I say, you keep on winning the awards, you keep on getting the repeat business. Obviously, you must be doing a lot right there with the experience, and as you say, a lot of the guests now staying for dinner because of COVID. But if you were to put your hand on it, what do you think is the key success of Glasha Farmhouse?
I suppose it's making people feel special, making sure that they enjoy their stay with us, and just, I don't know what it is, but we just look after them well, I suppose. That's about it.
Well, Olive, definitely you have been, indeed, as I say, you've been a great supporter of our annual auction for the St. Vincent de Paul. And just finally, before I finish, as regards the farm and being an active farmer, Oliver, your son, and your cousins Michael up the road as well, or Oliver's cousin Michael up the road as well, a working farm experience, I'm sure your guests must really love that.
They do. They're looking out at the cows that come out from the milking parlour. As I said before, that they come out in line. Every farmer will know this, but they're in line in the pits. And, the Americans in particular, they used to be fascinated. Right. They thought we did years of training to let them come out. But, otherwise than that, the people, they just like being, they're sort of home from home a lot of the place, with a lot of the people now, they're home from home, know.
Well, definitely, you're making them feel home at home. You're doing a great job, and as I say, the Nair Valley, yourself and Mary Wall down Honora's Cottage, you've really put the West Waterford area, particularly Nair Valley, on the map over the years. Once again, congrats on your award of the 2020 Farmhouse Bed and Breakfast of the Year. And Olive, thanks for taking our call, and keep up the good work out there in Glasha House in Ballymacarbery.
Thank you very much, Kieran.
Well, Glanbia plc, the global nutrition group, has just published its financial results for the first 6 months. So to discuss the performance of the first 6 months, and indeed to look at the impact of COVID-19 has had and indeed has ongoing for Glanbia, we're joined by the Group Managing Director, Siobhan Talbot. First of all, Siobhan, how pleased are you with the performance in light of the global COVID-19 pandemic?
Hi, Kieran, thank you. Yes, I would say overall Glanbia had a resilient performance for the first 6 months, but we had a few difficult months there in the second quarter. I would say overall our response to the pandemic has really been aligned across three key priorities. It's been about protecting our people, continuing the supply of food, and maintaining the group's strong financial position. And in truth, I think we've done that well because of the incredible effort of our employees with the support of our suppliers and customers. Grew revenue, but profits were back a bit.
Obviously, it was difficult for everybody involved, as you mentioned, the employees, the principal there, but also, I know it here in Ireland, with the suppliers, indeed the supply chain, and the whole transport of milk from the farm to the plants was exceptional, and the support that Glanbia has got, indeed the farmers have given to you.
Absolutely. From the very early stages of the pandemic, we've been very, very focused on keeping our operations running and protecting the health and safety of all our people in the total supply chain. We have had very detailed site protection plans at all our locations and managed that health and safety piece through a comprehensive set of measures such as temperature checking, sanitation, social distancing, face masks and limiting access. And then at farm level, we've worked very closely with our suppliers where they've had the highest sanitation standards as they would always have. So never complacent about that here, and I'm particularly pleased that all our plants could keep running through this pandemic.
Obviously, the big talking point this week has been the worry with what's happening at meat plants. Obviously, with Glanbia, with a section of plants right across the country, from down here in Waterford Harbour with Bellevue to Ballyragget and Virginia up in County Cavan. Obviously, it's a very frightening time for all industries, but from a Glanbia point of view, I'm sure sure the fact that what's happening in meat plants is really putting a word of caution up for everybody.
Yes, I think everybody is validly cautious because it is very difficult to be definitive on how this pandemic will evolve. So really it comes back to those themes that I've said earlier around being very, very rigorous and very vigilant on health and safety of all participants, being very careful, increasing as we will continue to do all the checks to make sure that our people are staying as safe and well as we can possibly achieve.
As regards the impact of COVID, indeed the exposure for Glanbia's markets, because while Glanbia is headquartered here in Ireland, obviously you have operations right around the globe and also export to up to I think 130 countries. So obviously the impact and exposure on Glanbia, how difficult has that been for you?
Well, overall in the 6 months we actually grew our sales by over 2%. We had a good strong first quarter and then a more difficult second quarter. And it's fair to say that we've seen some of the performance improve as we go through June and July. But coronavirus did impact us like many organisations, and our adjusted earnings per share declined by about 17% versus the first half of last year. We did enter this pandemic in good financial shape as a business. We're very profitable, we have a strong balance sheet and we're highly cash generative. I would say overall our nutritional ingredients business and our joint ventures here in Ireland, the UK and US were very resilient through that difficult second quarter, and we saw most of it in our international performance nutrition business was where most of the challenge was.
Obviously there was a worry last year, the back end last year, performance nutrition, and as regards your strategy going forward, do you see Glanbia maintaining the strategy that you've had, particularly in the performance nutrition, indeed the nutrition area in general? Is that still the strategy every step of life's journey and the whole nutritional theme to it?
Absolutely. As we emerge from this pandemic, we absolutely believe that some of those key positive long-term global trends that drive our business remain intact. In fact, I would say our strategy is really aligned to those trends, whether it is about general increase in awareness around health and well-being and the importance of maintaining a healthy weight, the importance of immunity, the importance of supplementing a good diet. We have a lot of capability across our branded and ingredient portfolios and our joint ventures in that space. So very much our focus will be on health, well-being and nutrition.
You mentioned joint ventures there. Obviously from an Irish point of view, Glanbia Ireland, one of your joint ventures with Glanbia Cooperative Society, Ingredients, Consumer and Agri. How well have they performed and how do you see the pressure on them for the back end?
Yeah, the team have done a great job navigating all of the ups and downs. I mean, dairy markets move to their own rhythm and, one has to be cautious about the drivers of dairy markets for the latter part of the year. So we'll continue to monitor that. But like the rest of the organisation, they've been very focused on maintaining strong relationships with our suppliers, processing all of the milk, maintaining great relationships with our customers and changing some of the rhythms and ways of working in our agri-business branches as needed. So I would say a great job done by Jim and the team.
Speaking to you last year, you mentioned about the uncertainty with Brexit. Now, on top of this, looking into the second half of the year, you have the uncertainty not alone with Brexit, but obviously COVID-19 overhanging. So looking ahead to the second half must be a frightening prospect for any group managing director.
There's no doubt Brexit hasn't gone away for sure. I mean, we've been preparing for the impact of that for some time now, and we have a dedicated group-wide team that looks at the business readiness across all aspects of our supply chain, how we go to market, tariffs, regulation, all our people, etc. So we have a lot of plans in place across the group to cover those areas. We continue to stand up a group-wide effort to fine-tune the preparations as the negotiations unfold, and we'll be monitoring that very closely in the months ahead. So, as you would expect, very difficult to navigate how COVID will evolve through the second half. So we remain cautious for the second half of the year. We have removed our financial guidance for 2020, but we are very focused strategically, and we're doing all the right things, I believe, to position ourselves against those key health and wellness trends. And I've no doubt that we'll see good momentum in the organisation as we look forward.
So finally, what you're saying really, while in the short term the outlook remains uncertain, overall you're happy that Glanbia are in as good as possible position as any company could be looking into the back end of 2020?
Absolutely. We have a strong organisation. We're financially very disciplined. We have a good balance sheet and we have a great team of people.
Siobhan Talbot, Group Managing Director of Glanbia, once again, thanks for taking our call. Best to look for the back end of 2020.
Thank you.
Well, before I go on the racing front, great week again for local Waterford connections cross-channel. Cappajock Tom Queally had a nice winner again in Lingfield, while back at home his younger brother Declan Queally had another good week midweek, settling winners at Kilbeggan, as well as a one at Ballinrobe for his mum Bernie, with promising young rider John Cowan of Ballinrobe, grandnephew of the legendary Nicky D in the saddle, riding his very first winner, the first of many, I'm sure. Well, that's my lot for this week's programme. Once again, my thanks to Sean and Ollie for all their help in putting this week's programme together. So from myself, Kieran O'Connor, it's goodbye for now, and indeed best of luck before I go to all involved in Tramore's 4-day racing festival, and hopefully we'll have plenty of local winners to report on next week's programme. So stay safe, and I'll talk to you same time next week.
Farmview with Kieran O'Connor on WLR.
With GlanbiaConnect.com. Thousands of products in the palm of your hand.